Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes per detail.
Earning your degree online doesn't mean you have to go about it alone. At Capella University, we're here to support you when you're ready. From enrollment counselors who get to know you and your goals, to academic coaches who can help you form a plan to stay on track. We care about your success and are dedicated to helping you pursue your goals. Going back to school is a big step, but having support at every step of your academic journey can make a big difference. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse on your favorite streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. You can follow the Red Treehouse on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, Threads, and Facebook at Red Treehouse Pod. And now you can find the Red Treehouse on Patreon. Join the Red Treehouse community for as little as $3 per month and receive exclusive member benefits, including personal shoutouts, early access to episodes, bonus episodes, and more. Simply go to patreon.com/Red Treehouse. As always, if you have a scary story or topic you'd like me to feature on an upcoming episode, email redtreehousepod@gmail.com. Sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. Of all the normal daily life activities, there might be one that is taken most for granted: driving. This is true for me, and even more so when I'm driving somewhere familiar. I've lost count of the times that I've ended up at my destination, only to realize I don't remember anything specific about the drive. Almost like I was on autopilot the entire way. I know some people don't like to drive, but for me, driving is a chance to catch my breath. I can listen to what I want or drive in silence. And I can leave a bit earlier than needed to have a few more minutes to myself. In these ways, driving is almost therapeutic. For some, driving is the exact opposite of relaxing. In fact, a few people close to me not only don't like driving, they avoid it if at all possible. Even on familiar roads, the stress of being behind the wheel is often strong enough to have someone else take the reins. I do my best driving at night. Whether a quick run to the store or a road trip, I love driving when it's dark outside. And even more than that, I love driving on dark, quiet roads at night. There is something peaceful about looking in my rearview mirror and not seeing the headlights of another car in the distance. Well, at least most of the time. As much as driving relaxes me, there have been times when it's been stressful, and they often include me making a wrong turn and ending up on an unknown stretch of road. There are times, though, where I've purposely driven down the wrong road because its reputation as being haunted, spooky, and downright cursed is too much to pass up. In this episode of The Red Treehouse, we're going to explore 3 cursed roads from New Jersey, including one that is widely considered to be among the most haunted roads in the United States. What should you expect if one night you mustered up the courage to drive down Igoe Road, Shades of Death Road, or the infamous Clinton Road? I'll share the details. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse. Nestled in Marlboro, New Jersey, lies an interesting and relatively short haunted road. Measuring at just shy of 2 miles long, it's hard to discern at first if Igoe Road is a dirt trail or an actual road. Legend has it that a patient from the nearby Marlboro Psychiatric Hospital escaped, took his child to Igoe Road, and killed it in the woods. As if the tragedy weren't enough, it's been said that if you drive down Igoe Road late at night, you'll come across a tree with a baby's face in its trunk and the statue of the Virgin Mary nearby. Of the roads we'll cover in today's episode, Igoe Road is the only one I've driven down, and I'll tell you, it's creepy. The road is a short dirt trail with no streetlights, and it makes you feel as though the trees are closing in on you. But here's the thing. When I first heard about Igoe Road, it was just described as a scary road among other nearby scary roads, including Pleasant Valley Road and Conover Road. The legend as I heard it was like the original, except instead of the baby face being on Igoe Road, it was on Conover Road. Located off Route 79 in Marlboro, Conover Road runs nearly perpendicular to Route 79. And from the direction I was coming in, I turned right onto Conover and drove slowly for just over half a mile. As I drove slowly up Conover, I was told there would be an oak tree with a large, wide trunk, and that it would be noticeably different from others. There, towards the bottom of the trunk, I would see what appears to be a baby's face, and that the escapee from the nearby Marlboro Psychiatric Hospital had hung his child from a low-hanging branch. Sure enough, as I drove, I noticed a large oak tree just up ahead. It was noticeably larger than others in the area. I stopped in front of the tree, lowered my car window, and tried to find the baby's face. I could have sworn I saw it in the tree, which was enough to scare the hell out of me. Within a few seconds, I felt like I was being watched, and I quickly rolled up my car window and started to get out of there. According to one article, pareidolia is, quote, a brain phenomenon in which a person sees or hears something significant in a random image or pattern. Pareidolia is what causes people to see faces in inanimate objects, such as the Virgin Mary in grilled cheese or the man in the moon. End quote. I'm willing to admit that it's possible that what I saw was my mind playing tricks on me. But that doesn't make it any less scary. A short distance beyond the tree was a left turn onto an unmarked road. This struck me as odd, so of course I made the turn. A winding road that started in the woods eventually opened into a school area with religious statues scattered throughout the grounds. Unsure of where to go, I followed the road down and around, where I came to a set of stairs leading to the woods. Naturally, I got out, and even though it was the middle of the night, started walking down the stairs. Within a short distance, maybe 100 feet or so, the stairs ended. But they didn't end up anywhere. In fact, at the end of the stairs was a thick bush, acting as a wall to whatever lay behind it. I'll confess, this time I was scared. I was pretty deep in the woods, by myself, and with only a phone flashlight. I'm pretty sure I flew back to the car and drove the rest of the way, where the side road led out onto Pleasant Valley Road, where I then made a left, followed by a quick right onto Igoe Road. With a name like Shades of Death Road, it's no wonder it's considered one of the most haunted in New Jersey. Located in Warren County and nearly 7 miles long, Shades of Death Road runs through one of the more isolated parts of the state, and no one is quite sure how it got its dark name. The legend has it that the road was originally known as the Shades because of the overhanging trees along the roadway. But eventually, the road became synonymous with murder, leading to locals adding "of death" later on. Oh, and there's something else. A portion of Shades of Death Road runs along the edge of a body of water, known locally as Ghost Lake. Years ago, a car full of teenagers were driving down the road after prom. It had rained earlier in the night, and the curvy road was slick, creating hazardous conditions for even the most experienced driver. At some point, the driver of the car lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a ditch, killing one of the passengers. On dark and wet nights, travelers along Shades of Death Road have reported seeing the ghostly figure of the girl who died in the car accident, still wearing her prom dress. Another possible origin story involves the original inhabitants of the area, who, according to one article, quote, were an unruly band of squatters, end quote. As gang violence increased, quote, men from this vile gang would get into fights over women, and the squabbles would result in the death of one of the participants. As the reputation of these murderous bandits grew, the area they inhabited was named Shades of Death, end quote. No matter how the road got its name, scary encounters persist to this day. According to one experience posted on Reddit, quote, I went out there a few years ago. I am all for paranormal events and took the situation head on. We had a 3-car progression, and we all pulled off the side of the road into a clearing of sorts and parked. We began walking towards the lake, and as I said, I was taking this head on. So I started my journey up a little hill to the right of my group, about 20 yards from them. We all had flashlights and were having a good time trying to freak each other out. From the corner of my eye, I saw what looked like a bright light from the opposite side of the lake. We were still making our way towards the lake, so it was hard to pinpoint exactly what I was seeing, but the cabin was already in view. After trying to focus on the light for 30 seconds or so, I heard a shuffle to my left, which was now where the rest of my group was, relative to me. Again, I was still about 20 yards away, standing on top of a small hill. As I turned to look, assuming it was one of my friends trying to spook one of the girls with us, I noticed a shadow dart across my friend's path, just behind them. At first, I thought maybe it was a friend trying to spook everyone, as I said. But the shadow just moved a bit too fast. No way any of my friends could move that fast and remain completely shrouded in the darkness. Just as I saw and heard it, they all stopped immediately and spun around. Because honestly, that's what you do when you hear something scamper behind you. We stopped and were silent. About 10 seconds later is when all hell broke loose. To the left of all of us, on the other side of the path, we heard something move in the bushes and weeds. It sounded like something was trying to hide in them. Though I am an avid ghost and paranormal hunter, my mind went into rational mode. Wind, tricks of the moonlight. Still, the possibility it was a friend I didn't account for. As my mind went through the possibilities, we heard a thump. And I mean, we fucking heard a thump. We all did. It wasn't just one of us that said they heard something in an attempt to spook the rest of us. We all heard it. It sounded like, if you will, someone carrying a sack or something heavy, like a body, for example, and then dropped it. That is when everyone took off running back to our cars. Now, as I said, I take these things head on. I am interested in the unknown and what the hell might be out there, so I instinctively got annoyed. We were only there maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and already everyone was taking off. The goal was to make it around the lake, or at least to the cabin. So, I started my descent from the small hill, taking my time. I mean, I was spooked, but at the same time I thought they were overreacting, and now my fun was about to end. As I made my way down the hill and back towards my friends, I felt an unsettling breeze. It wasn't windy, and from what I remember, it was a nice clear spring or summer night. I got a chill and felt a slight shove. That's the best way I can describe it. At first, I tried to rationalize it, that I must have tripped over a rock or a stick or something. But usually you can feel that in your foot, in the front by your toes, like when you stub a toe or whatever. But after gathering my thoughts for a second, I realized the breeze was still coming over me, and I didn't feel anything on my foot. Instead, I felt the shove towards my lower back, like someone had touched or pushed me. It's hard to explain. It was a very light feeling, but I know I felt it. That was when I started to get a bit more spooked. And when I get spooked, I do that thing where you kinda talk loudly to yourself. I called out to my friends and started to take the first few steps towards them. After maybe 7 or 8 steps, I tripped again. And this time, I knew I felt like I was touched in the same spot as before, on my lower back. Just a gentle push. Then, I heard it. Maybe it was the sound of the night mixed with my growing paranoia, but I heard someone whisper just behind me, "Leave." It sounded almost comforting, and I felt like it was more of a warning than a threat. That's when I sped up and got back to the group with a bit of a speed walk. After this, we all climbed into our cars and made fun of each other as we were pulling out. Then my friend's car got stuck. A few of us jumped out to help so we could get out of there ASAP. We rocked his car and got him back on the road. But just as myself and 3 other friends were jumping back into our cars, we all saw the same thing. We recounted it later as we stopped for some food at a small hot dog place nearby. just past our headlights, along the path that we had just come from, was a shadow, just standing there, watching. The shadows around this shadow moved from the trees and the moonlight and so on. But this shadow didn't move. I tried to make it out, but it was just past our field of view and was almost blurry. But we all saw it. We didn't say anything about it to each other till we were at the hot dog place eating. At first, we were making jokes about who was the biggest wimp and so on. But it got kind of real when my friend mentioned the shadow. Just, it didn't move. I don't know exactly what it was, and I was almost tempted to move toward it. But whatever it was telling us to leave before something we would regret happened. So, we got out of there and moved as quickly as we could. End quote. Perhaps the most famous or infamous cursed road in New Jersey is Clinton Road in West Milford. Nearly 10 miles long, Clinton Road cuts through isolated and dense forest and ends at the mouth of Upper Greenwood Lake. The road is known for a wide range of paranormal activity, including ghostly headlights, a ghost child, phantom hitchhikers, strange animal sightings, disembodied voices, spectral figures, shadow people, UFOs, satanic worship, and more. It is advised that if you dare to travel on Clinton Road at night, that you remain in your car with your windows up and your doors locked. Under no circumstances should you ever get out of your car. Over the years, drivers have reported seeing phantom headlights, quote, materializing out of thin air and closely tailing their vehicles, only to vanish without a trace, end quote. One of the most enduring stories is that of a phantom hitchhiker. Quote, a young girl who was said to appear on the side of the road, thumb extended, as if in need of a ride, end quote. But, as is often the case with these stories, as drivers draw closer to the young girl, she vanishes into thin air. In 1983, human remains were found on the side of Clinton Road. Quote, an autopsy revealed ice crystals in the blood vessels near the heart, allowing interior organs to decay at a far slower rate than that of the skin, end quote. The murder was attributed to Richard Kuklinski, a notorious killer known as the Iceman. He later confessed to the murder and was sentenced to life in prison. The Cross Castle, which was demolished in 1988, was said to be the site of satanic worship and scary paranormal phenomena, including ghostly whispers, spectral mists, and shadow figures standing in the distance. One article stated, quote, after one night of hearing tales, me and 6 others decided to go to the castle. As we got up the dirt road that wound up to the castle, we parked the cars, got out, lit a fire, and drank some beer. After a half hour, we began to hear chanting and chains rattling. Then, one of the girls started to go into a seizure. 3 of us tried to move her to no avail. It was like she was nailed to the rock. Then the chanting stopped, and the girl came around. We all looked at each other like, what the hell is going on here? End quote. Shortly after turning onto Clinton Road from Route 23, you'll come up on the Clinton Reservoir, a beautiful and picturesque area. It's also deadly. as Dead Man's Curve comes up quickly. One article described this area, stating, quote, "If the tales of spectral figures and haunted bridges weren't enough, Clinton Road is also associated with a sinister spot known as Dead Man's Curve. Here, it is said that a group of witches and/or Satanists gathered at night to conduct rituals and ceremonies." End quote. Reports of ritual animal sacrifice occurring here are common, and one article warned the reader to avoid getting out of the vehicle if they saw an animal, dead or alive, in the middle of the roadway, stating, quote, "They want you to get out of the car to kill you or eat you. Just turn around and floor it." End quote. Without a doubt, the most famous paranormal story is the bridge over the Clinton Brook and the ghost boy who lives under the bridge. According to the urban legend, quote, "If you toss a coin into the water from the bridge, the ghost of a boy who drowned in the brook will fling it back at you." End quote. A variation of the story involves the ghost boy dragging the person who tossed the coin into the icy waters below the bridge. Still another variation of the story states a little boy was hit by a car and killed on the bridge after bending over to pick up a quarter on the ground. According to this version, if you get out of your car and stand on the bridge, especially at night, you may see a quarter drop to the ground, and when you bend over to pick it up, the little boy will either push you or drag you into the lake. The paranormal encounters on Clinton Road are ongoing even to this day. Reddit user Sacred Television posted, quote, "So I used to live near an infamous road. It's a thin road with no street lines, only a few houses at the end, and lined with thick woods. There were no streetlights. We heard stories like ghosts being spotted in the woods, weird beasts, creepy vibes, and a penny thrown off a small bridge coming back to you. My boyfriend and I decided to drive down it one night in his car. It was a small stick shift car. The road had several pull-offs where you could park and sit. We pulled off at the first one and took some footage of the woods. Nothing happened. So we continued driving to the next pull-off. We parked and shut off the car, and we heard some rustling, but we both assumed it was an animal moving away from the sound of the car parking. We sat for a few seconds in the dark of the woods. Then, we heard something hit the car, like a rock. Then, we heard pounding on the truck and the roof. At this point, we decided to drive off. My boyfriend attempted to start the car, to no avail. He tried several times before it eventually started. Then, he put it in gear and stepped on the gas. The car stood still. I was freaking out and told him to stop messing around. He said he wasn't. Then the car, while in first gear and the gas depressed, began to be pulled backwards. Against all logic, the car was fighting to go forward against something that wasn't viewable. The taillights lit up the forest behind us, but there was nothing there. Out of nowhere, the car jumps forward, and we were able to drive away from the pull-off. Blown away by the experience we just had, we decided to find another pull-off. This was stupid. The pull-off we found was before the bridge, the one where pennies are thrown. We toddled to the bridge and throw a penny. We heard it hit the small stream. We looked back at the car, and swore we saw someone walk behind it. So, we rushed back to the car, but there was no sign of anyone near it. This was the last straw, and we decided to get off the road ASAP. We got in the car and sped off. And as we were driving, we heard something small hit and chip our windshield. It did not sound like a rock. It sounded like a penny. Whatever was on the road either wanted us gone or to never leave at all. We haven't gone back since. I don't know about you, but there's something especially scary about being on a dark and windy road. Maybe it's the feeling of being watched by something or someone hiding in the woods. Maybe it's the uncertainty of the vehicles around you. Do they have dangerous intentions? Or maybe, as scary as it is to drive down these roads, it might actually be scarier to stop and try to reverse course. For those few seconds, you're at your most vulnerable. So to stay safe, you keep driving. Have you ever driven on these roads and experienced something scary? If so, email your experience to redtreehousepod@gmail.com, and I'll feature your story in an upcoming episode. As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're left with the lingering and unsettling question: what would you do if you were spooked on one of these haunted and cursed roads? I've shared the details. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.